Okay, testing, testing. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome aboard to the Morning Note. My name is Carlos Garcia, founder and CEO of G.A.R Capital. It is Wednesday, June 29th, 2022. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's go ahead and bring up Thinkorswim platform. That was the Bloomberg platform before. Blech. Dow futures are up 67 points. Thank you, energy stocks. NASDAQ is green. S&P futures pretty flat to green. Russell, flat. It's pretty much slightly green. Consolidation. Very similar to what we saw last Wednesday. If you remember, we were talking about this with my Da Vinci Code type theory of movement price action, where it was just basically a retest of the breakout level, which I have a support level of 3,800 on the S&P. But again, we will see today what we get. If we get consolidation, some choppiness, we'll wait it out. If we get some movement, let's see what we can get. 10-year treasuries down today, 3.172 on the yield, excuse me. Dollar index flat, so that's going to help stocks a little bit. The VIX up 1.52%, rejecting that 100-day moving average. I'm going to keep an eye on that level of right around 2907. Once we start getting to the 30s, we'll expect more downside on the S&P, maybe get down to 3750 or 3700. Crude oil up again, 1.44%, 113.86. If we go and bring up crude oil here, starting to hit close to resistance. We're going to get close to it to see if we break above it, 115. We got to 101. Again, I was expecting that $100 breakdown, but a nice pop of about 10% on crude oil as the stock market as oil stocks bounced after that overbought level that we had. If you remember a couple weeks ago, we talked about XLE and all those guys. Gold futures are up 18.33 an ounce. Gasoline futures are down $3.82, down 0.37%. Silver up 0.57%, 20.99, and that's per ounce. Euro dollar is flat, 105.21. Dollar yen is up 52 pips. It just continues to rise. I can't believe it. 136.67. Bitcoin literally just holding on to 20,000 right now by the skin of its teeth. We hit as low as around 19.9, but it seems that 20,000 seems to be kind of support now. In terms of Bitcoin, you know the drill. Still buying every week, little by little, and owning it. Ethereum, being the higher beta crypto, is down 4% at 1106 per coin. And that's where we are. Let's go ahead and take a look at some headlines today. We'll bring up TweetDeck. And the first thing that came out today was the GDP number. So let's go ahead and get that. The GDP number annualized. Here we go. GDP, live squawk. Okay. GDP, this is for Q1 this year. This is the final reading, negative 1.6%. So that's the first negative quarter that we've had since 2020 Q2. Personal consumption, 1.8%. The estimate was negative, was 3.1%. So again, that's a big deviation there, 1.8 versus 3.1 estimate. GDP price index, 8.2% versus 8.1%, and the core PCE, 5.2% versus 5.1 estimate. But again, these numbers are already been baked in, as we know. So again, this is Q1. Now we're really looking over to Q2. We're going to get Q2's earnings next month, or this in July, excuse me, and then we see where we go from there. But again, 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. The last time we had that was in 2020 COVID. That was the last recession by definition. We also got a ton of news here. Shopify has implemented their 10-for-1 stock split. It is now trading around $34.70. Going to JP Morgan says, we're reducing estimates and price targets on 26 companies. The overall macro environment has deteriorated. JPM models a 66% chance of recession over the next 2 years and 83% in the next 3 years. All of our companies are at risk. And here's the list. Google, Amazon, Meta, Netflix, Snap, Twitter, Pinterest, Uber, DoorDash, Lyft, Spotify, Peloton, Airbnb, Booking Holdings, Expedia, TripAdvisor, Vacasa, I've never heard of that, Trivago, eBay, Farfetch, Fiverr, Chegg, ZipRecruiter, Credeo, Carlytics, and Nerdy. I can tell you right off the bat, I do own Google, Amazon, Meta, and Lyft, which is an old holding of mine that I've got way back. Airbnb I also own. But other than that, that's the only ones. I don't own Snap, Twitter, or Pinterest. Oh, Uber I also own. So again, a lot of these are the big boys. The price target now for Alphabet's 2,800. Price target, which is Google, 175 for Amazon, which is higher where we are today. The previous is 200. Meta, they got it at a 225. Their previous price target was 279, 275, 230 for Netflix. Previous was 300 again. So a lot of cuts here, but a lot of these are big cap growth. Uh, Apple's not shown there. Microsoft's not shown there. AMD or Nvidia is not on there. A lot of these names were big winners during the COVID recession or the lockdowns. Again, for example, Amazon being a big winner, Netflix, Meta not so much, but Twitter we know with the deal with Elon Musk. Again, they're cutting price. We don't know if that deal's going to go through. Peloton was a big winner. Airbnb took a hit, but again, another IPO darling. Expedia, Booking, those are starting to pick up, obviously. But again, you can see where JP Morgan's heads at with that. Morgan Stanley downgrades Upstart to underweight, price target cut by nearly 80%. Some other news, MicroStrategy, Michael Saylor says they bought an extra 480 Bitcoins for $10 million at an average price of 20,817, which is currently red. Currently. They also have 129,699 Bitcoins acquired for nearly $4 billion at an average price of 30,664. So Saylor's down about $10,000 per on the Bitcoin. So that's where he's at on that. So, he's buying the dip. That's on him. The other one, too, is Carnival Cruise, Morgan Stanley, another bearish call. You can see Morgan Stanley says another demand shock could send shares to zero. Not like, oh, we think it's going to be weak. No, zero. Wow. Have a heck of a call for CCL. And then Bed Bath & Beyond CEO exits because their sales plunged by a quarter compared with the same period last year with a net loss of $358 million. It's wow. I remember Bed Bath & Beyond for a while. Definitely one of those small cap darlings that everyone was buying in and boosting up and such. Not as much as a meme name, but again, if you guys remember, Bed Bath was one that definitely moved. Bank of America suggests that the S&P could rally 10% from here. So again, a lot of conflicting people with different reporting, but Morgan Stanley and JPM, their bankers are bearish. Bank of America apparently is bullish. So there we go. Those are the headlines. In terms of pre-market movers, let's see them. Tesla being down 1.17%. They're laying off some workers. Apple, Microsoft flat, Google basically flat, Meta up 1%. Snapchat is offering now a new pay service. I haven't used Snapchat in years. I don't even like it personally, so I don't know who paid for it. As I pay for Twitter, I do have a super follow, so I have done it before. Energy continues to go higher. Again, you can see kind of the defensive nature. Consumer defensives are up. These are the consumer staples. Energy right now, very defensive. Healthcare, UNH continues to grind higher, still my baby. And then you have industrials doing well as well. General Dynamics up 2.69%. The defense names, as Ukraine is asking for more money. Someone has to make all that artillery. Why not our guys? Right? Make some profit off that thing, I guess. That's kind of the mentality of the traders that are buying Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, and such like that. All right, let's answer some questions. Good morning. Thoughts on open positions right now? I do have Qs and I do have a Boeing open. So Boeing being an industrial, I do expect us to bounce off this 100-day. Again, we're at a consolidation point right now on the S&P. Qs bouncing off that 200 or NQ, excuse me. We'll go to Qs. Bouncing off that 200-day. I remember this very vividly from last week where I had some SPY calls where we had almost a stop run overnight, Tuesday to Wednesday, consolidated for 2 days, the Friday ignition. So it pays to be a little patient here, which I will. But again, if it does break 3,800, then really all bets are off at that point. And then we may have to close and start moving over to shorts. The good news is that I didn't go to the point of too extreme on the long side. Kind of went pretty quiet on that side. Again, as we didn't break really the level that I wanted to break, right around 39.40, 45. Good morning, Carlos. Would be a good price to buy GS and JPM. If I could be completely honest, I'd rather go by the S&P. when it comes to buying stocks. But there's a couple levels on Goldman Sachs that may be worth a shot. You're going to fill this gap to around 285 if we get additional weakness in the market. If you go by the 2-day, you have a very, very big support here around 270.93. So that'd be a good place to probably add more. I'll keep an eye on that level because I do own Goldman Sachs. And no, I don't want to sell it. Let's go to JPM being my next. And JPM, I have a 110.39 level, but there's a gap to fill at 105. I can get that gap. Definitely want to buy more JPM. Christopher's asking, second quarter GDP is less than first quarter GDP was down. Will that consider us in a recession? No, that just be considered slower growth. That would be a recession. Here, I'll show you the actual chart. So you can see here, again, this is green, 2018 Q2, green, slowing growth towards the tail end of 2018. 2018, if you recall, that's when the Fed raised rates at that point. The Fed reversed its course, and we continued to grind higher. Again, this is just GDP, but you could see we've had slowing growth before. It doesn't mean a recession, it just means slowing growth. But again, still positive. The idea of a recession is two negative readings. Q1 or Q2 of 2020, that's considered a recession. This is the first leg. Again, just a negative GDP reading. We've had that before many times without a recession. It just means it is slow. But you can see how Q2 was down. Everyone's staying home. Everyone goes back to work. We bounce right back. So you can almost discount these two. 2020, in a sense, in a weird way with GDP, is kind of a wash. It almost looks like we bounced back to Q1 anyways. And then Q1 of 2021, very strong. We continue there. Then we slowed down in Q3, bounced in Q4, and then now we're at a negative reading. Again, that's what inflation does. So the next one, if you expect us to be negative on Q2 GDP, that would be considered a recession. The last time we did that was in 2020, first half. So nothing new to us as traders. All right, back to it. Do you think the dollar, Dixie, will stabilize the next couple of days, or do you think we'll continue higher? All right, good question. You guys are bringing the heat today. Good. All right, let's take a look at the dollar together. And we know damn well why it's so important to look at the dollar. So I have a resistance level around 105. We gotten close a couple times and rejected it. So you have one here and one here. So I'm going to go stick with that 105 level. The only thing that would change in the dollar index is this panel that they're going to have with Lagarde from the ECB, Jerome Powell from the US, talking about central banks and being out hawkish. They're going to be almost out hawking each other. You know, no, I'm going to raise 75. No, I'm going to raise this. That's going to adjust the dollar. If we get more of these currencies overseas to actually play ball and increase their central bank rates, then the dollar may pull back a little bit. So again, we need to see if those countries are going to be more hawkish or have a more hawkish tone than we do, and that'll keep us below 105. I think that 105 seems to be that resistance, 103.75 being my support. But I do think that we do stabilize right around 104.75, but it's really a bet on what these people are going to say in their central bank meeting. When do you think it would be possible bottom of the bear market? Well, that's a really good question, and we talked about that on Sunday. Now, if you're talking about just in the S&P, there's a technical answer for that. I don't love it, but again, it's just the technical lesson. 3664 is that 161.8 extension. If we're just going to go ahead and come back to 2020 September, that's around 3588. 3500 is my level where I want to buy. I think that'll be to the point of just complete, I'm done, everyone throws their hand in the air. Very similar to around 2018, very similar to 2020. This one has been a long, drawn-out process. We've talked about this where we think we're just going to get bounced back to the channel, get us to 4,000, maybe to 4,100 if we're extra bullish, and then you go down to you go down a little more on that right shoulder, or we can call it a break of, or stay in the channel to 3,500. So I'm going to say 3,500 is my bottom. There's a difference. So again, a complete bottom is a tough one to call because there's so many moving parts. Remember, we still have employment, we still have those pillars. But the main thing you have to understand is that 3,800 level right now is so key because that's the support just from this week. And again, if we do break down below 3664, Again, we may test the new lows of 36.39. Right now, we're hanging out on the second floor of this building. The first floor we're already above. So again, it's tough to call the bottom. Remember what I talked about? It's a bottom, but not the bottom. I said that on Sunday. Same thing. You can have a bottom, but not the bottom. And the bottom, or the actual understanding of when that happens, well, that's where you get to the point of, when do you get where everyone just becomes, they give up? The capitulation moment. We've had some in crypto with Gemini. I think it was Gemini, and then you had Voyager or something like that. I forget the name, but that Terra Luna thing. Again, a lot of these hedge funds blowing up. So again, I think crypto is closer to the capitulation moment or a true bottom rather than equities, because equities are a little more rate sensitive. Again, there's corporate balance sheets, corporate earnings, a lot of moving parts. So I'm going to say 3,500 is my buy level. I hope that answers the question. My Apple position, Joey, yeah, that's a unusual options activity. We hit 30% on that. I held it. So again, I'm red on that big time, but I'll hold it till the end of the week. When do you? Okay, that's already the answer. When do you think the possible bottom? If you're talking about economics, when do I think the possible bottom is? Man, what would it take for a possible bottom in the economy? You would need I Number one would be an end of the conflict in Ukraine and Russia. That would be number one, and that would bring inflation down. Not immediately, but pretty close to it. Um, Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good level for a bottom. The only other one I would say is that if inflation rolls over, that's all. If you have CPI coming down in a good, meaningful pace, that considers a bottom. Yes. September. He calls September the bottom. Could be. Could be. Yeah, that Apple call, let me go and read it to you. I have the Apple 145 calls. They were up 30% on the unusual options activity. Again, at that level, that's just unusual contracts. It came pretty quickly on Monday. The only issue with that is, again, you guys close when you feel like it. Again, I hold for 40. It went red on me. I'm down like 83 on it. But I'm willing to hold on Apple. Again, after a bad day yesterday, we'll see if we get a nice little bounce. Maybe I can salvage a little better. Hey, it doesn't take much for Apple to keep going, to get going, but we'll see where we get now. We're getting a bounce higher, guys. So a lot of moving parts today. Yesterday kind of threw me back, I'll be honest with you. I was watching CNBC yesterday, and no one could explain the real reason what of the sales that we had yesterday. There was nothing that stood out other than a consumer sentiment survey, which I have yet to see that cause 120 handles on the S&P count for. That's not a non-farm payroll report. Okay, that I can understand, or an unemployment report. That's fine, but the consumer sentiment, that was pretty wild. That I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of hedge fund liquidation somewhere, or someone completely deleveraged a big fund of some kind. That's that kind of price action yesterday. That's what it looks like. Now, again, that could be just a retest as well, but that's a pretty violent retest. Retests don't take a day either. Again, unless without big news. Something to think about. Have a great rest of your day, guys. We will see you later on today at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Cheers.